Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Glad that you could take a half an hour out of your day. My name is Gene Marks, and this is going to be it's rather short, but hopefully full of informational discussion about managing your cash flow and how to navigate your business the best way possible with your cash over the next 90 days, which we're hoping is going to be part of a short-term period as the country builds itself back to recovery after the whole coronavirus pandemic. So again, my name is Gene Marks. I'm glad you're joining me today. I run a company called the Marks Group PC. I'm based outside of Philadelphia, but I do a lot of writing. So I write every week for the Washington Times, The Hill, Philadelphia Inquirer, The Guardian, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. A bunch of different places, all about small business management and technology. And I'm joined here today by Eliot Buchanan and Sameer Gulati, both founders of Plastiq. These guys are run a technology company that helps significantly with managing your cash flow, particularly your outbound cash, and well, also inbound cash in a way as well. But we're going to get to that soon. I've got the first sort of thing to talk about, and I want to take the first just 10 minutes or so to discuss a little bit about what's going on with bringing some cash into your business and the status of your of your overall, the federal programs that are going on. So when a lot of clients are asking me about bringing cash into your business, they're saying, what can we do? So there's really like 5 or 6 good ways that you can get funding for your business right now, even in the middle of the pandemic that's going on. And let me explain to you what those 5 or 6 ways are. And I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible, but also giving you as much information as possible. And let me also say, you can see on your screen, my email address is there. It's gene@marksgroup.net. So any questions that you might have about some of the things I'm about to talk about, email me directly once this webinar is over, and I'll be more than happy to answer the questions. Okay, way number 1 is federal funding. The Paycheck Protection Program is going on as we speak today. Today is April 30th. It has not run out of funds. The latest information from the Small Business Administration is that about 1/3 of the funds have been used up. On the last round of funding, which is about $250 billion worth of funding, the Small Business Administration gave out about 1.5 million new loans to businesses under the Paycheck Protection Program. Right now, they have got about 1 million to place, and they're trying to focus it on smaller companies, not larger ones. So the Paycheck Protection Program very much still open and available for you. Talk to your local banker, a community banker, or even consider going to one of the online lending platforms like Kabbage with a K, or On Deck Capital, or PayPal, QuickBooks Capital. All of those lending platforms have the ability for you to apply for money through the Paycheck Protection Program. That's one. Number 2, the Small Business Administration they just got new funding for their Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. If you are a business that's been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, you can apply for up to $2 million in loans. These are long-term fixed interest loans. 30 years is what the maturity is, and the interest rate is 3.75%. If you apply and get into the queue, because the SBA right now is quite overwhelmed, but they will be getting to the applications, you are eligible for up to a $10,000 grant based on the number of employees that you have. And if you've done business with the SBA before, you're eligible for a $25,000 grant as well. So Paycheck Protection Program, Economic Injury Disaster Loans, those are 2. Number 3, tax credits and deferrals, because this is cash for you. If you are paying federal income tax on your payroll, that means FICA, Medicare, on the payroll that you're doing right now, the CARES Act is allowing you to defer that, which means that you don't have to pay those taxes in 2020. You could push them out into 2021. You still will have to pay them, but it's like an interest-free loan on the federal taxes that you owe. You can hold on to that money and use it for other purposes. Number 2, when it comes to income taxes, or payroll taxes, there is something called the Employee Retention Tax Credit. If you do not participate in the Paycheck Protection Program, for whatever reason, say you didn't get the money or say you didn't apply, you can still get funding from the federal government. They are allowing employers to take up to a $5,000 per employee per quarter credit on the payroll taxes that you owe. So if you've got 10 employees and each of them are making more than $10,000 a quarter, you can take a $5,000 credit on each of them, 50,000 bucks per quarter against the payroll taxes that you owe, which means you don't have to pay those payroll taxes. And if the credit is bigger than the payroll taxes that you owe, it's a refundable credit. So you get the money back cash in your pocket. So payroll taxes and deferrals, the tax credit deferrals, that is one option to raise money for your company. Economic injury, disaster loans, paycheck protection programs. Those are three big areas. Let me talk about the fourth area. And the fourth area is from your state and your local resources. Most states, many major cities are offering programs of relief for small businesses. So I know in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Philadelphia, where I live, New York, just as an example, all of those states and cities have programs for grants and for loans and for funding for their local businesses. Talk to your state or your city governments, go to their website and see what's available for you. Another source of income is corporate money. Many large corporations have set aside funds specifically for small businesses that have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, Facebook has set up a $100 million fund, which you can apply to for grants. Verizon also has a fund. JP Morgan Chase has a fund, as well as the Opportunity Fund, which is a big nonprofit that has raised a bunch of money to help specifically help small businesses. Salesforce also just started a fund as well. There are a few others that are out there. Look for corporate grants and donations, those ones that I just mentioned to you, plus there are some other ones available. This is free money. They're doing it to do their part and give back to small businesses, their grants and their loans. So, Paycheck Protection Program, economic injury disaster loans from the SBA, tax credits or tax deferrals, state and local funding, corporate grants that are available, and finally and lastly, the Main Street Lending Program. This program is not live yet, but the Federal Reserve is making more than $500 billion federally backed money available to banks and are asking banks to send this money out as low interest loans to anyone who applies. So you can be any size business. The only thing is the minimum loan right now is $1 million and the maximum loan is $150 million. But it's cheap money, it's backed by the federal government. Talk to your banker. These loans themselves, their interest rates are anywhere from 3 to 4% right now, and the term is about 4 years. That program should be going live pretty soon, and that's another source of funding for your business. So I'm just about done, guys, so get ready. Let me recap one more time. The Paycheck Protection Program, economic injury disaster loans, tax credits and deferrals, state and local grants and loans, corporate grants and loans, and finally, the Main Street Lending Program. Now, I know I just went through a whole bunch of stuff. I know that if you're watching this, you might have specific questions about some of these specific programs. Again, my email is up on the screen here. It's gene@marksgroup.net. Feel free, please, to come back, email me with any questions, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. So we talked about, about money that's coming in and how to get money in and how to manage your money that you've got coming in. So these are from the different sources. But now we've got money that have come in. What do we do with that money? How do we best manage it from a payables perspective? How do we best manage from a cash flow perspective? So that's why obviously both Eliot and Sameer have joined me to discuss just that. Both these guys are the founders of Plastiq. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys to start with because this is a cash flow conversation. So guys, tell us what Plastiq, what it does, what you guys do, and tell us how this impacts, cash flow. And I would love to hear a specific example or two as well of one of your customers. So I'll throw it out to you guys.
Sure, thanks, Gene. I'll at least kick us off, and Sameer can chime in as well. But thanks for having us. So fundamentally, why we started Plastiq was to better help small medium business owners improve and increase cash flow. So you just heard Gene talk about a lot of valuable ways to get new cash into your account as a small business owner during especially these difficult times. But what Plastiq does is it basically helps you better manage the existing cash you already have on hand and buy you time as an SMB. So specifically, it's a platform where you as a business owner can add and manage and pay all of your major bills and vendors and invoices using credit cards that you have on file already. And so the reason why this is important is a couple of reasons. One, many small and medium businesses cannot use their credit cards to pay their major vendors and suppliers because they simply don't accept credit card. And one, and two, therefore, a lot of those business owners are forced to either, pay those major bills using cash they have right now on hand. But that's a challenge, especially during, let's say, the current COVID crisis, because a lot of business owners are struggling to pay all their bills and use the cash they have. And so what Plastiq does is allows you as a small business owner to, buy 30, 45 days of time using existing credit cards you already have. You don't have to apply for a new loan. You don't have to take out a new line of credit that you may or may not get. You can use an existing credit card you already have in your wallet to pay a vendor or a key bill that is due today and buy yourself 30, 45 days interest-free on that credit card, which again allows you as a business owner to better manage your cash flow, especially in the short term. Hopefully this crisis is over soon. So that's sort of at a high level of what Plastiq does. And Sameer, maybe you can give an example or two of customers, or of course, I'm happy to as well.
Yes, Sameer, what example, do you have an example for me as how this would work? And let's just talk about the pay, just to make sure I'm clear on this and that everybody else is that I've got a credit card, I have a business card already. Obviously, if I want to buy something from a supplier of mine, and we buy software, some of them do take credit cards. So if they take credit cards, that's fine. But I oftentimes run into companies that don't accept credit cards for whatever their reason. Right. So, what you're saying to me is that if we use Plastiq service, I can still use my credit card through that service.
Right, and Gene, I think one very important aspect of using a credit card versus writing a check or sending a wire is that when you are paying your suppliers using a credit card, you now have 30 or 45 days to pay the credit card bill. So you're effectively using your existing credit to finance that purchase and buying yourself 30 to 45 days. In other words, on your existing pre-approved credit without having to apply, you have generated an extra 30 days of cash flow.
Yes.
To give you a specific example, and for the audience here, one of our customers is Baseballism. This is a store that sells baseball-oriented merchandise. And they use us very strategically, and when they get a big order, sometimes they get offered bulk purchase discounts. So they're suppliers of hats or baseballs, which they then put logos on. They essentially say, if you buy 100 of these, this is the particular rate. If you buy 1,000 of these, you get a discount on that.
Right.
They don't have the cash to take advantage of those offers, but they have existing credit cards which they can use to make those payments, and money leaves their bank account only 30 or 45 days later. That's one example. The second example I would provide, particularly relevant for this period of time, given we're going through a tight period as an economy, is that a number of our restaurant owner customers are paying their suppliers because there's no revenue coming in, and they're trying to make payroll while they have applied for PPP loans and a number of things that you talked about. Right. So they're essentially saying, look, I have applied for loans and I am likely going to get them. But in the meantime, 30, 45 days, my very key relationships, my food suppliers, my alcohol provider, etc., my commercial rent, I still want to keep that going. So they're using Plastiq as a bridge to get to the PPP loans as an example right now.
Yeah, and I get those questions a lot from clients saying, what do I do in the interim while I'm waiting for my PPP loans? And I'm assuming this isn't, you could be any size business, right? Because one of the sources of cash I didn't mention, and I should have mentioned, is there's a lot of people that are independent contractors, or they're freelancers or sole proprietors, and I'm pointing them more towards unemployment. But unemployment, a lot of these states are they're so far behind right now in processing, and their websites are so out of date. So people have to sit around and wait, and they got bills they got to pay, business expenses. And I could see where Plastiq would come into play there. So just specifically, so I've got my credit card. Eliot, I'll pick on you. You're my supplier. You don't accept credit cards. And I say to you, like, okay, well, I could still use my credit card, Eliot. And your response to me is, how? I don't accept credit cards. What happens next?
Right. It's a good question. So, me as a supplier in your example, Gene, while I don't accept credit card, I do accept other forms of payment because you've been paying me already. So I accept wire transfer, ACH, perhaps check, right? Whatever form of payment I already accept is how Plastiq will pay me as a supplier. So you, Gene, you mentioned as an example, you are the business owner. You come in, you add the amount that you owe me as a supplier and whatever credit card you want to use. Any credit card we accept, all the banks, all the brands. And then we as Plastiq will charge your credit card. So to you, you get 30, 45 days of cash on hand before it leaves your bank, as Sameer mentioned. But then Plastiq will pay me as a supplier in a format we already as a supplier accept. So I as a supplier will see no difference. I get an ACH or a wire transfer or a check for the exact amount I'm expecting. And so there's no behavior change to me, and yet you get the benefit of 30, 45 days as a bridge, especially while you're waiting for some of these other loans and products to come into your bank account.
Okay, so first of all, that's awesome. Okay, I mean, that really does make a lot of sense. So really the onus is on me though, as the person that's paying. I'm going to go through Plastiq, and I'm the guy that's, that my supplier won't know the difference. If I usually just using the simplest example, send them a check, they'll still get a check, except the check won't be from me, it'll be from you, but it'll still be a check, obviously, if they can apply. And they get their payment, and I use the service as well. Still on the supplier side, because there's benefits, I think, to both sides of this chain. What's it cost?
So in your example, Gene, you as the payer using the credit card through Plastiq, you pay a fee of 2.5% to Plastiq because it costs us to accept the card. And then we will turn around and send the money to the recipient, to your supplier. And most of our customers who are using the credit card, they're getting 30, 45 days of cash flow, but they're also getting rewards on the card, right? So you pay 2.5% fee, but typically 1.5%, 2% you get back in rewards or cash back from your credit card company. Plus, in most cases, the Plastiq fee is a business expense. So you can actually deduct that on your taxes.
Got it.
So that gives you an added benefit of about, call it 0.7%. And on top of that, our really savvy customers are making use of early rebates or bulk purchase discounts that I mentioned.
Right.
So we love to see the fact that a number of our customers actually make money in spite of paying the 2.5% fee.
Yeah, so some of the other benefits, you mentioned the bulk, like rebates and for bulk discounts, which makes sense. I mean, if you can pay it, obviously you get a volume discount for doing that. There are still, which kind of blows my mind. I mean, this is a conversation about cash flow, but there's still a lot of companies out there that are offering discounts on early payments as well, or 2% net 10, which, by the way, I mean, with current interest rates, the way they are, if you see that opportunity, you take it, because you're earning way more by doing that than leaving the money in your bank for 30 days. But that to me would be another way to take advantage, right, of Plastiq, is that you can pay within that discount period, grab a significant discount on time or early payment, and that seems like that would more than offset the 2.5% fee that you guys charge. Do you guys have a lot of international clients? Like I have some clients that again, if you're a small business, they're going to buy something from China, they're going to buy something from from somebody overseas. It's just more of a pain. This seems to be a way that would facilitate that easier. Who can answer that?
Yeah, I'll take that. It's a growing area for us. Small businesses are increasingly global, particularly their supply chains are, and roughly about 15% of our payments today are going internationally, and the major ones tend to be China, the UK, Canada, and Mexico. Those tend to be the major corridors, as you would expect. And we feel really lucky and privileged that we have more than 1 million customers, a bunch of who are SMBs, and they really struggle with international payments.
Yeah.
And if you Google today international wire with a credit card, you will be shown options from major institutions which charge you fees which literally rip your face off.
A fortune. Yeah, I hear you.
It's insane. And so we launched this product, and and the take-up has been tremendous. In fact, now a lot of our customers are asking, instead of just US dollar payments, Plastiq, can you help us make payments in local currency? So in the Chinese currency or in Mexican currency or in pounds in the UK. So we're working on that, and we're probably a couple of months away from making that available too.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's go to the other side of the transaction though. So I'm receiving payments then. So again, like, all right, like I don't accept credit cards. There are a lot of people, they don't want to pay the fee on their end, their credit cards, right? But I guess if it's something I can recommend to a customer who wants to pay me, does that make sense?
Yeah, as an example, Gene, so it basically becomes an added payment option that you as a supplier, right, can offer to your customers, right? You say, hey, I have another way for you to pay. And in fact, I'd say during this, during the COVID crisis in particular, a lot of the suppliers are realizing that now more than ever, they need to give their customers the flexibility of increased payment choices. And so we're actually seeing, some pretty interesting examples and growth rates. As an example, without a specific name, there's a very large food distribution company, like a Cisco, if you will, that has a lot of restaurant owners, Sameer mentioned that category, who are having a challenging time paying their bills right now. And so this is a supplier that said, wow, Plastiq's a great solution for me to offer simply another payment choice amongst my other options, especially during this time.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so look, for those of you guys watching, we've had conversations, the three of us before. We kind of talked a little bit about what we want to talk about on this conversation, but a question came to mind. I got to throw it out to you, so don't yell at me, but I'm sure you'll be able to address it. Integrating this with accounting systems, okay? I mean, I'm kind of curious. Obviously, you're a small or medium-sized business. You could be running anything from QuickBooks to Sage to Epicor to Bacola to, there's a bunch of them out there. But we're talking about payable systems, and it can't be doing this just, one-off. How does that work with Plastiq, and what are your plans, if that's a better way to put it?
Yeah, so I'll take that one.
Okay.
So today, the entire premise of the product is keep it really, really simple for the user, right? So if you are somebody who has used a credit card to buy a pair of shoes online, it's literally that simple to use Plastiq, right? You put in your credit card details and
Sure.
choose the payment form, and it goes out. That said, as we have grown and, like I said, we feel really privileged to be working with so many small businesses. We're doing more than almost $2 billion in payments a year at this point, Gene. One of the things that they have asked for is the question you asked, which is, hey, help make it even easier for me. So we're looking to launch in August this year our integration with QuickBooks, and because that, in talking to our customer base, that's the first one that most people use, and closely followed by the other accounting systems.
Great. All right, that's really good. All right, so we only have a few minutes left, guys, and let's pivot a little bit. There's three of us that are here. I talk a lot about cash flow. Let's have each of us, for the people that are watching this, obviously cash is tight. We need to not only do what we can to collect it, but also to pay it out in the most expeditious way. So without mentioning Plastiq, okay, you're not allowed to do that. That's your challenge. I'd love all three of us, let's individually come up with one good cash flow tip for our viewers, okay? And I'll go first. And the reason why I'm going first is that way I get to say my cash flow tip, and then you can't say it first, so that I don't have to worry about you stealing my cash flow tip. So this will be my first one, which is about your vendors, okay? I've had, over the years, a lot of people advise me and advise my clients that, like, your vendors are your best source of financing. And I've always just vehemently disagreed with that when it comes to your cash flow. I always believe that if you want to manage your cash flow right, you take care of your vendors and you make sure that they're being paid on time, or even paid early if you can take a discount. You don't lean on them or play around with them or string them out longer than necessary, mainly because for a lot of my clients, their suppliers are like they're key partners in their business. And like anything else, if you are trying to build relationships and you need materials to ship out, and you're relying on these partners, and here you are monkeying around with them on paying them and paying them late, I think in the long term that really can hurt your business and hurt your cash flow. So when people ask me, like, do you have any advice when it comes to managing your cash flow, the first thing that comes to mind is rather than stringing out your vendors, take care of them, pay them on time or pay them early, make them love you, because you will need them always, and that will have a big beneficial impact on your cash flow. So that's my tip and my speech. Who wants to go next?
Go for it, Eliot.
Sure. Yeah. Just a couple. I'll build off of yours for 1 second. Give one quick other example, but I agree with your point, Gene. However, one additional point there that in talking to a lot of small businesses myself is a lot of them, assume that they have to pay their vendor on time. And I agree with you that relationship is critical, but where they have a strong relationship, given the backdrop of this crisis, business owners are not alone, meaning a lot of vendors who also need their payers are willing to work with those payers cooperatively and proactively to buy additional time without a fee. They don't want to be surprised by getting paid late, but if you say, hey, I'm a week or two behind, and they've known you for the last 10 years, a lot of them are willing to be very cooperative. And so that can actually be a free source of financing, if you will, by just leveraging that relationship that you've built over a number of years. So that's something that I think should be kept in mind.
Yep. Yeah, that's, by the way, I want to piggyback on that. So you're absolutely, having a close relationship with your vendors is like super important. And you're absolutely right. When things get tight, you communicate and you're honest. And, I guess the thing that I see sometimes is where, like, they don't pay, or they just, you're making, your vendor have to call you after 45 days and ask you, and there's nothing worse than having to call for money that's owed to you after you've done your service or shipped your product, and now it's like you're begging. Don't put your vendor into that position. And yeah, Eliot, you're absolutely right. If you do need more time, you pick up the phone, you work it out, you be transparent, and most vendors, if you have a good relationship, will work along with you. So that's great. So thank you. All right, Sameer, go ahead.
So my tip to everyone here is, particularly in this time, but even otherwise, know your options, right? And what I talked to hundreds of small businesses, and one very common theme is that when people are looking for more cash flow, they think about their vendors, they think about where can I get more credit, but very, very few times do you actually hear people thinking about, what about the existing credit I already have?
Sure.
I spent all these years to have a good credit score, pay my bills on time, have access to these credit lines on my credit card or a line of credit, but they feel stuck. They feel stuck because the other side doesn't take that form of payment. And so know your options. It's not always the right solution for you, but just remember, every one of us has 4 or 5 credit cards sitting with us, and that is ready, real-time access to credit, which you can use anytime you want. Use that thoughtfully and judiciously, and I hope everyone gets through this in good spirits.
I agree. Well, guys, that was great. I appreciate your comments. I know we all have more information to share on cash flow and some advice and all that, but we gave ourselves 30 minutes because we didn't want to completely bore the world with our conversation, but I don't think we did. So I think it was helpful. So guys, just as a recap, if you're viewing this, if you signed up for this webinar, you are going to be getting an email with a link to where you can go and watch this again if you didn't pick up everything that we were talking about. My email is down below. You can see it on your screen. It's gene@marksgroup.net. Eliot's email is on here as well. I got it right, Eliot, right? ELIOT@plastq.com, Plastq with a Q. So it is, if you have questions about Plastq service, by all means, Eliot said he'll stay up 24/7 to answer them. He's got nothing going on right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so all he wants to do is answer emails. So reach out to him and he'll be happy to help you. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you very much. That was a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everybody for watching. Look for an email to follow up, and thank you. And like Sameer says, we'll get through this, and I'm sure we'll see you all on the other side of this. Thanks so much.